Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video I'm going to do some more writing feedback. This week I'm only doing writing task 1. A few people have asked for some feedback on writing task 1, so this week and maybe next week only writing task 1. So we're starting with a table. Let's have a look. The tables below give information about, we see this a lot, give information about the world population and distribution in 1990 and 2000 with an estimate of the situation in 2050. Let's read that again. The tables below give information about the world population and distribution in 1950 and 2000 with an estimate of the situation in 2050. So quite a lot of things here. We have like distant past, 1950, recent past, 2000, and what's becoming the near future, 2050. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, as always, and make comparisons where relevant. We know this second part is written in every IELTS academic writing task 1. Are comparisons relevant here? Absolutely. You have 3 different time periods, 1950, 2000, and 2050. So we want to see some comparative language, whether that's comparative verbs, whether that's comparative adjectives, or just using comparative structures with figures, twice as many, 3 times less, or something like this, possibly. Okay, so let's have a look. I always want to take a nice detailed look at the information before I check anything. How much time will IELTS examiners spend looking at the data? I don't know. In my experience of being an examiner of writing, I, examiners are generally paid per script or per writing that they check, and so they don't want to waste too much time reading through the information. But anyway, in this video, of course, we will spend as much time as we need. But keep in mind the examiner won't spend a long time looking at all of the information. They will hope that you will do this job for them in the writing, that you will explain everything clearly, and they might refer back to the image if something you write isn't clear, and then they can say, okay, well, this isn't like quite achieved. But anyway, let's take a look at this. So world population 1950 to 2050. World population in 1950 was 2.5 billion. So they write billions here because this is the measurement, like in the billions. But usually we don't use this S at the end of billion, like 2 billion people. Not 2 billions people, but in the billions. So 2.5 billion in 1950, 6 billion in 2000, and the estimate for 2050 is 9 billion. It's a lot of humans. Okay. Distribution of world population by region. So we get 6 continents here: Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, North America, Oceania. Okay, just thinking about key features, the key feature that stands out for me is Asia, with more than half, in all 3 periods, more than half of the world's population lives in Asia, or lived in Asia, or is going to live in Asia. The smallest one, Oceania, that's a key detail. That's a key feature. So, when I think of key features, I always think of like the biggest and the smallest, but also I want to check the biggest changes. So we see in Africa a, steady growth, 9, 13, 20, rising by 4, rising by 7. That's, quite impressive growth. Asia remains about the same. Europe sees a change too, from 22 to 12 to 7, so that rate of change might be considered important. There are a lot of details here that you could select. Latin America, pretty irrelevant, right? Not so. I don't mean Latin America is irrelevant. Latin America, I'm sure, is a wonderful place. I just mean it's statistically not very relevant here, quite low, not much change. North America, the same, quite low. I mean, a drop, I guess, from 7% to 4%. That does represent, a 80% drop approximately. Who knows? So yeah, a lot of key features, a lot of possible things to talk about here. I would go with the key features. Key feature one would be, I think, the biggest and smallest. I would go with Asia and Oceania for my key feature one. And then key feature two, I would contrast maybe Africa with Europe. Because that's kind of Africa starts in the same place where Europe ends, and Europe starts in the same place where Africa ends. So those would be my two key features that I would choose to talk about, I think. I might, if I didn't. I mean, you could. There are many ways of splitting this up. A lot of information here, and that ability to skillfully select those key details will be checked. I would still recommend a I would still recommend a 3-paragraph or a 4-paragraph structure for this. Don't really want more. 150 words is the minimum. 180 for me is great. Really don't want more than 200. Really don't want more than 200. Okay, let's check the candidate's balance. First of all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Noticeable that the candidate has a paragraph that is just 2 short sentences. I don't like that. I don't know why a candidate would write 6 paragraphs for IELTS writing task 1. Also, it looks kind of long, doesn't it? Are we more than 200 words here? 237 words. So my first question to the candidate is, if you should write 150 words, at least 150 words, what is acceptable? What do you think is acceptable to go over by? Like, okay, going over by 10%, absolutely fine, no problem. 20%, yeah, okay. 50%. So 50% would be 225 words. Do you think it's okay to go over the recommended word count or the minimum word count by more than 50%? I don't know. That for me, I would, if I was doing this task and I saw that I have gone over the word count by more than 50%, I would think to myself immediately, like, okay, that I need to go back to the table here and understand how to write this task, because I'm obviously doing something wrong. I'm adding too much detail and I need to write in a more concise way, or I need to select fewer key features. I would certainly not hand my work in to be checked if it was more than 50%. Yeah, it's interesting how other people's minds work. Like, I don't know. I'm maybe more detail oriented. I don't know. Maybe I care about the things that I submit more. I don't know. But my brain would just say that's unacceptable, right? More than 50% over the minimum word limit. Yeah, I don't know. But okay. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's see what the candidate's actually written here. The figures present the world population data from 1950 to 2050. Cool, good. And the population distribution across 6 different regions. Oh, amazing. And the population distribution across, very nice. And then puts them in parentheses. Cool, absolutely fine, great. Absolutely fine there. You might want to mention that the 2050 statistics are projected, that they're predictive, but okay, it's not a big deal. Should be clear to the reader. Anything else? Not really. You don't need to mention that it's in the billions. Yeah, okay, great. As an opening, really top notch. Overall, so good. The candidate is trying to present an overview. The world population more than doubled in the first 5 decades. More than doubled. Beautiful language. Really nice. More than doubled in the first 5 decades observed. Nice. Nice little participle adjective there. 1950. Good, 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 good. And is expected to grow. Oh, this is very nice. Very, very, very nice. Predictive language is expected to grow by 50% in the second half. Let's just check that that's right. 6 to 9. Absolutely. The only problem I would have here is this an overview? Right? With overviews, we don't usually give statistical data with overviews. So more than doubled, grow by 50%. This is specific, data-driven analysis. It's not an overview. An overview is that the population grew or more than doubled or is expected to grow. But maybe it is okay as an overview. Maybe we could then get into maybe the specific detail will be how many people exactly. So yeah, that could work. That could work. Yeah, we're not overly heavy on detail, which is good for the overview. But then we get to this paragraph. In 1950, the world's total population was 2.5 billions. We want billion, not billions. Billion, not billions. Billion, not billions. In 1950, the world's total population was 2.5 billion. It then grew, nice use of then, it then grew to 6 billion in 2000 and zest. Okay, great. So we have overview, specific detail. Very nice. And then I guess we're going for another overview. Maybe you could put this into one paragraph. Yeah, and that would work. Put that into one paragraph. That would work. In terms of population distribution, the data suggest, good. Not many people know that data is actually a plural noun. So yeah, the data suggest, good, that more than half of the world's population maybe? Oh, but okay, half of the world population could also work, live in Asia, whereas a tiny minority, 1% or less, live in Oceania. Cool. So we get an overview there, but now we've got Africa and Europe saw quite drastic changes. So the logical order for me is odd here, right? We get overview, key detail, or key feature. Sorry, no. Overview of a key feature, the rise in population, and then statistical data to support that. Great. Then we get another overview of where people live, and then we start talking about changes in Africa and Europe. So I don't know where we are. Like, overview, specific, overview, overview. Africa and Europe saw quite drastic changes in the proportions, probably in the proportion, maybe proportions of world population living in the regions. Okay, this sentence is a little bit weak here. Africa and Europe saw quite drastic changes in the proportion of world population living in the regions. Yeah, it just feels a little confusing. While the world population distribution rose. Okay, do we need the world population distribution rose? What does that mean for the world population distribution? The world population distribution rose. Distribution is what percentage? I mean, it can rise in Africa. Do we have in Africa? Ah, we do. While the world population distribution rose from 9% in 1950 to 13% in 2000 in Africa. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. The proportions fell from 22% to 12% in Europe within the same period. Yep. Period. Such changes will continue until, cool, we get some predictive language. Maybe in academic, we could say something better than will, like are projected to continue, or are predicted to continue, or are likely to continue. That might be a little bit better than will, but okay. Such changes will continue until 2050, comma, should have a comma here. where it is predicted that 20% of the world population will live in Africa, while only 7% will live in Europe. Okay, so it's just a bit odd that why did we mention Asia and Oceania here and then give all the details about Africa and Europe here? So, you're trying to cover too many key features, I would say. Latin America, on the other, now we're talking about, yeah, there's just too many. We only want two key features, really. We want to try always well, not always, in most cases in IELTS academic writing task 1, we want to select two key features. Now those two key features can cover, quite a lot of stuff, but we're always looking to break it down into like two main things. We don't really have enough words to talk about all of the details. Anyway, Latin America, on the other hand, had a 6% share of the world population in 1950. The number grew to 9% in 2000 and will remain the same. Okay, a little bit of a mechanical retelling of the data here. But okay, it's fine. The data from North America show a downward trend. Okay, I like this term, a downward trend. That's nice. From 7% in 1950 to 5% in 2000. Yeah, so for me, you're just trying to do too much. You're trying to, talk about everything, every number in here, every region. And you really don't have to do that. You just can't do that in IELTS writing task 1. You don't have the word count that will allow you to do that. And also, by selecting all of the features, that shows potentially less of an ability for you to select key features, right? Part of IELTS writing task 1 is your ability to select key features. That means making decisions about what to include and making decisions about what not to include. And so when you try to include everything, it shows perhaps you can't quite, select those key features. But I think you can. I just think you haven't done that so well here. But I mean, the writing quality is very good. So task achievement. So because I feel like you've just tried to do too much, I'm only going to award 7. I do think that you've presented the information in language which is very easy to understand. You have developed and you've given statistical data to back all of this up. So if you just shred this down, maybe forget about Latin America, you don't need to mention it, and just choose to focus on two main key features. You might have small passing references to the other parts. But if you do that, I think you could look at band 8, maybe even band 9 for task achievement, because the way that you present the information is great. It's really, really good. So coherence and cohesion. This one I'm also going to give 7. And again, you should have more because, again, your signposting language is wonderful. Love this in terms of whereas. All of this is really, really, really good. There's inside paragraphs, we get also reference words here, such changes. Referencing is really important in task 1. So this is really, really nice. However, I just don't get the structure, which is introduction, overview 1, data, overview 2, then overview 3 plus data, and data for a different point. So I just don't know. Yeah, too many paragraphs for me. You have a really short paragraph here. And yeah, so for me, the number of paragraphs makes this a little bit, well, pulls the score down a little bit. Lexical resource. I think we can certainly award something high here. So billions is a problem. Changes in instead of changes of is such a minor problem. Drastic changes. I don't love quite here, but I mean, it's okay if I'm just being pedantic. Quite drastic changes. Does it feel academic? Quite drastic changes? Perhaps. Perhaps it's acceptable. Downward trend. It's just tiny, tiny, tiny mistakes, isn't it? Tiny minority. I'm going to go with a safe 8. You really could have 9 for lexical resource. It's really, yeah, I really think, predicted, expected. Yeah, there is a lot of flexibility with those predictive things. We get will, we get predicted, we get estimated, we get expected. Maybe I'll boost it to a 9. Maybe there is enough lexical resource there for a 9. Grammatical range and accuracy. So we are very, very strong with our grammar too. Really like, again, these like expected to grow, predicted to grow, things like this. I love these like adjectives that predict the future. You deal with past, present, and future nicely. You have nice subordination here. Nice complex sentences, really good referencing. Again, while we're Mr. Comma here, not a big problem, but okay. Just trying to see if there's anything that takes it away from a 9. No, for me, I think I can award 9 for grammatical range and accuracy here. Is there anything that can pull it down? I mean, reading through it, I remember reading through it, I just thought, okay, that's a strong piece of writing, but I don't know if grammatically and vocab, I thought at the time it's a 9. I mean, it's definitely up there, like close to that C2 level. Let's just read it again. More than doubled, great. I don't like giving 9s. I don't know if it's obvious. Yeah, I can't. I have to give a 9. So overall, this gets a score of 8.0, one of the strongest pieces of writing we've had on this channel, certainly one of the strongest pieces of writing I've seen from a candidate or from a student that I've had. Really, really strong stuff. Just be careful with your billion versus billions. You are probably confused by this use of billions in the chart. But when we actually give numbers, we say 6 billion, not 6 billions. Changes in is just a bit better than changes of. You missed a comma here. That's it in terms of language. Really, really strong in terms of language. Like you've reached God level of English language. Congratulations. Just be careful with the number of paragraphs, the word count. 150, at least 150, 180 is perfect, 190 is okay, 200, and I'm starting to think, I don't know, 237, nah. And yeah, just a little bit, don't try to do too much. Don't try to cover too many details here. You don't have to cover every single detail. It's your job as the summarizer. Sometimes you're overloaded with data in IELTS writing task 1. Sometimes you're overloaded with data by design because your task is made more difficult then when you have to select key features, which is a hugely important thing. Analyzing the data, selecting those key features. And for me, you're trying to do too much, trying to choose too many things to write about, and that makes your writing long. It makes your paragraph structure a bit weird. But yeah, overall, really good writing. 8.0, high end of C1, bordering on C2. In terms of language, yeah, incredible. Really good job. Yeah. So please do let me know what you think. Sometimes I get not criticized, but some comments tell me that I'm not generous enough with my marking, that I should give higher marking. Other comments tell me that I'm too generous and that I should give lower marks. I always try to approach it honestly, and like I've mentioned many times before, writing and speaking there's always a subjective element to marking writing and speaking, and examiners, even very, very experienced examiners, can have a difference in opinion about these different things. But I tried to mark it objectively and honestly, and for me, this was a piece of writing at band 8. Really, really good stuff. If you'd like me to check your IELTS writing, or if you'd like a free practice IELTS speaking test with feedback, you can get more information on how to get this on my Telegram channel, Expert Examiner. A link to that Telegram channel is in the description below. More task ones coming this week and next week. I don't check task ones very often, I will be honest. I like checking them, but I think my level of expertise with writing task one is, a little bit just slightly lower perhaps than my expertise with writing task 2, but yeah, hopefully it's useful. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Have a wonderful evening. See you all soon. Bye bye.